recently saw a TED Talk by Leslie Morgan Steiner in which she tries to answer the question of why don't domestic violence victims leave their abusers. And she goes on to tell her own domestic violence story and describes some of the stereotypes and prejudice surrounding domestic violence victims. And after telling her story, Ms. Steiner encourages others to break the silence around domestic abuse, and she tells her audience that abuse can only thrive in silence. So, I have decided to talk. And I don't talk much anymore. Before I met Adrian, I had a full life. I had my family, I had band and color guard, and I had my friends who I'd stay up talking to well into the night. Adrian, I thought, completed the picture. He and I were happy together, and so together we always were. What did it matter if I canceled plans with my friends if Adrian and I could spend more time together? I was so busy with school and guard that we couldn't spend nearly as much time together as we would have liked. So when I received an invitation to hang out with my friends, I passed. There would always be a next time, I thought. Except when next time came, apparently Adrian and I still weren't spending enough time together, so I'd pass again. And eventually, I stopped receiving invitations at all. But Adrian and I were so busy discussing how much both of us hated our religion-pushing parents that I hadn't noticed the silence. So I graduate, and I go away to school in Jacksonville, and not being surrounded by people I've known for 4 years, I come to find out that I've completely forgotten how to make friends, or how to even talk to new people. And I have to force myself to make eye contact during conversations, and any and all interaction is limited to small talk due to this paralyzing fear that people will find me unlikable or strange because of my anxiety. I find that my roommates are the only people I really feel comfortable approaching, and within one semester I find myself back on the bus to UCF. Back at home, I re-assimilate into the life that I left behind, which by that I mean spending almost every night over at Adrian's or locked in my room on the phone with Adrian. By this time, I can clearly see that I have social anxiety, and I start to look for help. Adrian seems supportive. He offers to help by inviting me out with his friends and suggesting I hang out with certain of my own few friends. My best friend is out of the question because for some reason she's never had a very good feeling about Adrian, and Adrian knew it. So I planned friends outings with those same people anyway, and I hear a familiar refrain that Adrian and I don't spend enough time together. Then Adrian starts suggesting that I quit one of my jobs so that we can spend more time together. And eventually, I start to notice that something is off. Adrian has been refusing to spend time with my family for years. He goes out of his way to badmouth not only my family, but my best and only friends as well. He declined to attend my choir performances that really mattered to me. And sex became something that I let happen, just to get him to stop complaining about how rarely I wanted it. And I saw an increase in the amount of times Adrian would slam, kick, or throw objects in anger or frustration. Adrian's words toward me began to change as well. I used to hear that I was beautiful. Now I would hear that I was neglecting Adrian and that I should just know what he needed from me. It was normal to hear that I was selfish or close-minded, or that if I just listened to him and fixed these flaws within myself, the problems in our relationship would disappear. I heard comments intended to devalue my thoughts and take away my right to have feelings because they conflicted with what Adrian wanted. I would routinely hear that what I remembered hadn't actually happened, or that my thoughts on a subject couldn't be trusted or valued in the way that another person's would be. And when he and I sat down to discuss our problems, the negative comments became so bad that I would barricade myself in the bathroom to hide my face while I cried multiple times. In my last conversation with Adrian, I heard the phrases, "You're so selfish," "You're so ignorant," "You're so rude," and "You're so bitter," inside a 10-minute interval. And admitting these things is extremely difficult for me to do. I used to consider myself to be a strong woman who wouldn't stand for this shit. But somehow Adrian walked all over me. And I think it's because, until recently, I had never thought to consider my relationship from an emotional abuse standpoint. To me, I wasn't abused. I was guilty. Guilty of not doing enough for my relationship because I was always told and made to feel that way. And looking back on that time in my life, that is the one feeling that sums up my opinion of myself. Guilty and not good enough. And the funny thing is, I had originally just wanted to sit down and tell my story to my two closest friends. But after watching that TED Talk video, I realized that I had nothing to be ashamed about. Emotional abuse is so hard to identify because its description is so vague and its victims so uneducated. But if I can speak up, then I've done my part to change the world. Good night, folks.